Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. What would you do if one morning you discovered the two people you trusted most had been hiding a truth that could shatter everything? Would you stay and demand an answer, or would you walk away without looking back? Today, we follow Tuna, a mother caught between love, betrayal, and the safety of her child. Why did she leave the farm without a word? What was in that mysterious piece of paper that made her heart turn cold? And when Alex searched through the night, was it out of guilt or something deeper? Every glance, every silence, every step away carries a secret you won't expect. Stay with me until the end of this video to uncover what really happened. And don't forget to subscribe so we can reach 10,000 followers and bring you even more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. The morning unfolded quietly, the kind of stillness that seemed to hold its breath. Outside, the soft murmur of chickens pecking at the ground blended with the gentle rustle of leaves swaying in the breeze. In the small kitchen, Alex stirred a pot of porridge, the steam curling upward like delicate threads of cloud. The scent of warm rice and ginger filled the air, wrapping the space in a fragile comfort. Tuna, still pale from her lingering illness, stepped into the doorway. Her eyes lingered on Alex, surprised, almost embarrassed, to see him still there. He turned toward her, offering a faint smile that was neither too warm nor too distant. It was a smile that carried the weight of care, yet hid something deeper, unspoken. "You should eat," he said softly, ladling porridge into a bowl. She hesitated before taking it, her fingers brushing against his just briefly, like a whisper. Outside, the sunlight pooled on the dirt yard, a golden wash over the coops and pens he had planned to tend. There was a strange calm between them, as though both were standing on the edge of words that refused to cross their lips. She thanked him, her voice low, and he nodded, his gaze holding hers for a moment longer than necessary before drifting away. In that quiet kitchen, with the smell of porridge and the slow rhythm of the morning, everything seemed ordinary. And yet, beneath the surface, the air trembled with an invisible tension, an unspoken truth waiting for its moment to break free. When Alex stepped outside to take a phone call, the quiet in the room shifted. Tuna's gaze wandered, her hands idly straightening the blanket on the bed, until something white peeked out from beneath a folded shirt. A piece of paper, creased as if it had been carried in a pocket, caught her attention. She picked it up, expecting something trivial, perhaps a receipt or a work note. But the moment her eyes traced the printed words, her breath stilled. Her name, Johnny's name. The stark black letters spelling out the conclusion. No biological relationship. The room seemed to tilt. The rustle of leaves outside faded, replaced by the deep thud of her own heartbeat. The air felt heavier, colder, as if the truth on that page had stolen the warmth from the morning. Her mind surged with questions, sharp, relentless. Why? Why was this here? Why didn't Alex tell me? And Johnny, did they both know? The thought of the two men she had trusted the most keeping this from her twisted in her chest like a blade. Her hands trembled as she set the paper down, but her eyes stayed fixed on it, as though staring long enough might make the words rearrange into something less cruel. But they did not change. The ink was firm, unmoving, just like the wall that suddenly rose between her and everything she had believed. The porridge on the table cooled untouched, the gentle morning light now feeling harsh against her skin. Somewhere outside, Alex's voice murmured into the phone, unaware that the world inside had already begun to crack. The weight of the paper lingered in her hand, as if it carried not just ink, but the collapse of trust itself. Tuna's chest tightened. Her breaths came shallow, uneven. She reached for her phone, the screen glaring back as she dialed Alex. Once, twice, again. Each time, the same distant tone, the same empty recording. Please leave a message after the beep. Johnny's number offered no refuge either, only the same silence, mechanical and cold. The unanswered calls felt heavier than the truth she had just uncovered. A wave of dizziness swelled, her vision narrowing until the edges blurred. She caught the edge of the table, but the strength in her legs faltered. The last thing she felt was the chill of the floor against her palms before the world tipped into darkness. When she came to, the room was the same, yet it felt different, emptier, as if some vital thread had been cut. Her child's soft breathing reached her ears, an anchor pulling her back from the storm inside. She looked at the small, sleeping face and realized there was only one thing left to do. She could not stay here, not with questions that burned like this, not with the sting of betrayal pressing on her chest. If Alex and Johnny would keep something so important from her, then every moment she remained was another moment spent under a shadow. Her decision settled like cold stone in her heart. She would leave. No warnings, no explanations. Only distance could protect what little of herself she had left to give. By the time Alex returned home, the air inside carried a stillness that was different from the farm's gentle quiet. It was tense, expectant. His sister was waiting, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "Why didn't you come home last night?" she asked, the words clipped, almost accusatory. "Did you stay at the farm with Tuna?" Alex straightened, already anticipating the argument. "I was going to come back," he began, "but she had a high fever and it rained heavily. Her child is still small. If I left, there would have been no one to help her." His sister's brow furrowed deeper. "Do you understand what people would say? She's already married, with a child. Our family's name isn't something you can toss around carelessly." "I know," he said quietly, the weight of her disapproval settling on him. "But last night wasn't about appearances. It was about helping someone in need." "You can hire help," she countered, her tone cooling further. "You don't have to be there yourself. Or, do you love her?" The question hung between them, heavy and dangerous. Alex shook his head. "No, I just couldn't abandon her." Her gaze softened slightly, but the line in her voice remained. "Then let this be the last time. Don't make me and Mother lose faith in you." Alex nodded, but as he turned toward the stairs, her words echoed. The last time. He told himself he agreed, yet something inside him resisted, an unspoken truth he wasn't ready to admit. By the time the dizziness faded and her strength returned, Tuna's heart had already settled into a quiet, unshakable decision. The air in the small room felt heavier now, not from illness, but from the knowledge that she could no longer stay. Every movement she made was slow, deliberate, as though the stillness itself might splinter if she rushed. Her child stirred, rubbing sleepy eyes, a tiny hand curling into the fabric of her skirt. That touch, warm, trusting, nearly made her falter. But she knew that staying here meant risking more pain for both of them. Without a word, she turned to the table where Alex had left her breakfast. The porridge was cold now, untouched. She reached for the phone he had once given her, a gift that had felt like an invisible bridge between them. Today, it felt like a chain. With steady hands, she set it down. Next to it, she placed a blank sheet of paper. The pen trembled at first, then found its rhythm. Dear Alex, thank you for helping me and my child. You are talented, capable, and far too kind to be burdened by someone like me. I have brought enough trouble to your life, to your family. You deserve a woman who can stand beside you without shadow or scandal. When you read this letter, I will already be gone. Without me, there will be no more weight on your shoulders. I hope you find happiness, even if it is far from me. Goodbye. Her eyes lingered on the final word, as if it might dissolve if she stared long enough. It didn't. She folded the paper, smoothing each crease with a care that felt like a last act of love, and left it where he would see it. Outside, the late afternoon sun poured over the yard, stretching shadows across the earth. She lifted her child into her arms, the small bundle of their belongings slung over her shoulder. Her steps were steady, but inside, something unraveled with every footfall toward the gate. Behind her, the letter sat in silence, its edges lifting slightly in the breeze, fluttering like a whisper of his name, too soft, too late to call her back. By the time Alex returned to the farm, the air inside felt unnervingly still, as though the walls themselves knew she was gone. His eyes scanned the room, the bed neatly made, the corner where her belongings had been now bare. Then he saw it. Her phone, lying silent on the table, and beside it, a folded letter. He opened it slowly, the handwriting familiar yet heavy with finality. Each line landed like a stone in his chest. Words of gratitude, of farewell, and the quiet admission that she believed herself to be a burden. The last sentence struck him hardest. When you read this, I will already be gone. His grip tightened around the paper. It was then that he noticed another sheet, crumpled slightly. His own DNA test result, the one he hadn't meant for her to see. Realization came sharp and cold. She had read it. She had left because of it. He stepped outside, the sun already slipping behind the hills, pulling the day into shadow. Tuna. His voice broke the stillness, echoing into the distance. He walked faster, then ran, his eyes searching the road, the edges of the fields, the fading outlines of trees. The night gathered around him, cool and pressing. He imagined her out there, carrying her child, vulnerable to the dark. Guilt churned inside him, not just for the paper she had found, but for all the words he had never said. With every step, he called her name again, softer now, almost a plea. The wind carried his voice away, offering no answer. Somewhere beyond his sight, she was walking further, each moment stretching the distance between them like an unbridgeable river. Still, he kept moving, chasing the last traces of light, as though he could catch her before the night swallowed her completely. Night had settled fully by the time Tuna found the abandoned house. Its roof sagged slightly, and the windows were nothing but hollow frames staring into the dark. But it was shelter. She pushed the door open with her shoulder, the hinges groaning softly, and stepped inside. The air was musty, thick with the scent of dust and time. She set her child down on a tattered mat in the corner, brushing hair from the small face. "Just for tonight," she whispered, more to herself than to the child. The little one nodded sleepily, trusting her without question, unaware of the miles of silence now standing between them and Alex. Outside, far away, Alex was still searching. His footsteps echoed against the empty roads, each call of her name swallowed quickly by the night. He imagined her cold, tired, perhaps scared, and the thought gripped him tighter than the darkness. Every corner he turned, every shadow he passed, he hoped would reveal her. In the quiet of the abandoned house, Tuna sat with her back against the wall, listening to her child's breathing. Her thoughts wandered unwillingly to Alex. His quiet gestures, the way he had stayed by her side when she was sick, the look in his eyes when he thought she wasn't watching. But then the sting of betrayal returned, pulling her back into the choice she had made. Above them, the wind rattled loose boards, a hollow reminder of how fragile shelter could be. Somewhere beyond the night's reach, two hearts kept thinking of each other. One in the shadows of an empty house, the other on the open road. Both too far, both too silent, and both unsure if morning would bring them closer or seal the distance for good. And that's how a single piece of paper changed everything, turning warmth into distance and leaving two hearts searching for each other in the dark. Will Alex ever find Tuna before it's too late? Or will the silence between them grow into a wall that can never be torn down? If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to help us reach 10,000 followers, so we can bring you more tales of love, loss, and the choices that change everything. Because sometimes, the most powerful moments are the ones left unsaid.